With hurricane season coming up, here is a important disclaimer here before we get started with the hurricane outlook. Please take this seasonal outlook with a grain of salt, as we cannot accurately predict the future. Now, some key factors that will influence our hurricane season this year is going to be mainly our ENSO pattern. Well, how does our ENSO pattern influence our hurricane season? We have three phases. We have La Nina, we have ENSO neutral, and we have El Nino. Looks like we are currently in an El Nino, which is expected to strengthen, which suppresses Atlantic activity but boosts Eastern Pacific activity. We can see the Atlantic, warmer western waters help a bit, but El Nino wind shear dominates with below normal activity expected. Now the Eastern Pacific, we have warmer waters and reduced shear, which usually helps hurricanes, which results in an above normal hurricane season out there. Overall takeaway, quiet Atlantic season, but busier Pacific. Remember, one storm can still bring major impacts. So we can see below normal activity expected in the Atlantic and above normal activity expected in the Pacific. And here is a side-by-side comparison of the Atlantic versus the Eastern Pacific. We can see NOAA is predicting 8 to 14 named storms, 3 to 6 hurricanes, and 1 to 3 major hurricanes. We could still have major hurricanes during below activity seasons. And we can see there was a 55% chance of it being below normal according to NOAA. And according to the Colorado State University, there's 13 named storms projected, 6 hurricanes, and 2 major hurricanes. And they're still expecting a below normal season out there in the Atlantic. Eastern Pacific, quite a bit more. According to NOAA, 15 to 22 named storms, 9 to 14 hurricanes, and 5 to 9 major storms with an above normal hurricane season expected. So Hawaii, watch out. I'm thinking y'all are going to be coming in on an above average hurricane season. In the Atlantic, just watch out this year. There could still be 1 to 3 major hurricanes expected, or even more. You never know. Last year was supposed to be an above average season, and it turned out to be below average. There was a couple hurricanes that were strong, but really it was a below average hurricane season. And this year's supposed to be below average, but you never know. Usually Mother Nature likes to throw some curveballs in there and brings on an above average season when an below average season is expected, or a below average season when an above average season is expected, vice versa. So you just never know. You should always watch out anyways during hurricane season if you live in a hurricane prone area. And we can see down below here, El Nino creates opposite effects, quieter Atlantic, busier Pacific, but remember again, takes only one storm, like I said earlier. Now, a historical analog year that resembles this year is 2009. Now, there is also other years, but 2009 resembles this year to the T. Why? Well, because of similar El Nino conditions. The Atlantic had 9 named storms that year with 3 hurricanes, with 2 major hurricanes, which it was a very quiet season. The Eastern Pacific was much more active under El Nino, and you can see here all of the named storms that occurred during that year. We can see the Eastern Pacific was very, very active. So definitely, again, Hawaii, please watch out this hurricane season. I'll be keeping y'all posted, of course, like I always do on here. And if I'm not keeping y'all posted on here, YouTube or Rumble, then I will obviously be on X, Facebook, and here on YouTube community posts, posting on whether or not the hurricane will affect you, or it will remain a fish storm. So pretty much El Nino patterns like 2009 show a quieter Atlantic and a busier Pacific season. Now, some notable historical hurricanes in similar El Nino years include, of course, 2009, like stated earlier, Hurricane Bill, which was Category 4. Massive swells impacted the East Coast and even Ida. 2015 had Hurricane Joaquin, Category 4, devastated the Bahamas and caused indirect southeast flooding. 2023, Hurricane Idalia was a Category 3 and affected the Big Bend. In the Eastern Pacific, El Nino boosted activity in 2015, with Patricia being a major Cat 5 hurricane. Now, some interesting statistics and facts about this hurricane season includes that El Nino years typically average 11 named storms in the Atlantic versus a higher activity in the Eastern Pacific. 2009 was one of the quietest Atlantic seasons since 1997, while Pacific was very busy. U.S. landfall risks drop in the Atlantic, but remains real at 50 to 55% chance of at least one major hurricane strike here in the U.S. Key takeaway is that opposite seasons are possible. Prepare for the unexpected in either basin. And we can see the El Nino averages versus long-term norms. We can see the Atlantic is well below normal compared to the Eastern Pacific, and the reason why is because of shear. Hurricanes hate wind shear, and terror storms apart, we're expected to have more wind shear in the Atlantic versus the Pacific. And in my bold prediction, I state that even though the Atlantic is expected to be below normal, El Nino steering may still send at least one system toward the Gulf or the Caribbean. Meanwhile, the Eastern Pacific will likely see above normal activity with multiple strong storms. Opposite seasons, but still again, one storm can still define the year for any region. So even though there's going to be some strong shear going on in the Atlantic basin, could be still one storm that can still pack a punch and redefine this year. So definitely, again, like I said earlier, please be mindful of this if you live in a hurricane-prone area. And speaking of the Atlantic basin, take a look at the sea surface temperatures out there. We'll be taking a look at this in my monthly outlook videos leading up into November. Keep in mind, hurricane season lasts all the way from June 1st through November 30th here in the Atlantic basin, and of course hurricane season's already started in the Pacific basin, so we'll take a look at y'all as well. But we can see here for the next 3 months from June all the way through August, sea surface temperatures are going to be a little bit above average here in the main development region as well as here in the Gulf. Still a little chilly here by Africa, but we take a look July, August, September, we're definitely going to be warming up drastically, and especially as we head into the fall months as well, and then of course heading downhill as we head into November. So even though the sea surface temperatures are going to be looking to be above average this hurricane season here in the Atlantic, that really don't mean much because we could still have wind shear tearing them apart, weakening them down before they even impact the US or any of these islands down here. And also, there could be more fish storms this year, as y'all saw in the thumbnail, because of that wind shear, which could push these storms out into the Azores and into Europe. And speaking of Europe, why does Europe rarely see hurricanes like the US sees? Well, cooler sea surface temperatures off Europe prevent tropical development. High wind shear tears apart any storms that try to form. Steering winds and currents push systems westward toward the U.S. and Caribbean, and the U.S. benefits from warm Gulf and Atlantic waters, which Europe does not. So basically Europe, y'all are pretty blessed out there when it comes to hurricane season anyway. Y'all don't hardly come in on any, but you did come in on some in the past, so definitely got to keep an eye out just in case. But really nothing to worry about out there, as really anything that comes up here comes into high wind shear and some cooler waters. But again, you never know. And there could be more systems heading y'all's way this year, since wind shear is going to be tearing these apart, steering them towards y'all, and becoming major fish storms from there. Now, here are the names for this hurricane season. You can see the Atlantic and in the Pacific as well. If you see your name, then I guess look forward to that name storm, I guess. But we can see down here, peak hurricane season lasts all the way from June to November in the Atlantic. And in the Eastern Pacific, it's already started and lasts pretty much throughout the same time frame. And before we get into how you can prepare for this hurricane season, I'm going to show you what we'll be taking a look at in my upcoming videos this year. Now, I did forget to show you all the sea surface temperatures here in the Pacific basin. So for the next 3 months, pretty much the similar story to the Atlantic basin. Can be pretty warm out there as well. So the Eastern Pacific could be very, very active, at least compared to the Atlantic season anyway. So Hawaii, definitely got to keep your guard up this hurricane season, as really you should any hurricane season really. But let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to be taking a look at this upcoming hurricane season, which includes the simulated infrared radar. This is something we'll be taking a look at in my weekly forecast videos leading up into November, which the simulated infrared will show us for the next couple of weeks whether or not there's going to be any sort of activity out there. And we can see currently here on May 29th, as of recording this video, not much occurring out there at all. So really nothing to worry about. Atlantic basin, not expecting much out there either. Now, please keep in mind that you'll also see on social media people posting fear-mongering stuff on there about hurricane being 2 weeks out. Please don't buy the bait. They're just doing it for clicks and stuff. Always trust your trusted sources, like the National Hurricane Center, for example. We'll be also taking a look at the National Hurricane Center, as they have updated their interface here, and it's actually pretty nice. Here in the Atlantic, of course, obviously nothing going on. Hurricane season starts on June 1st, and it looks like it's not going to start off on an active note, at least here in the short term anyway, so that's some good news. Pacific Basin, we can see there is a 70% chance as of uploading this video, so we do have some activity already out there. Hawaii, watch out, of course, on that front. Central Pacific, routine issuance of Central Pacific Tropical Weather Outlook will resume on June 1st when hurricane season kicks off. So Central Pacific is in alignment with Atlantic hurricane season, but the Eastern Pacific is already started. So we'll be taking a look at this, and we'll be taking a look at the simulated infrared as well as the sea surface temperatures. Now, I'll also be taking a look at this in my monthly outlook videos all the way through November, so definitely look forward to those weekly outlooks. And of course, if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button. It's definitely much appreciated if you want to keep up to date on this hurricane season. Now, here is how you can prepare for this hurricane season. Of course, prepare now. Know your risk zone and evacuation routes. Create a family emergency plan and obviously share it. Build a 3 to 7 day emergency kit. Water, non-perishables, medications, flashlights, battery, radio, cash, and important documents. Secure your home, trim trees, review flood insurance, and sign up for official alerts, as I know there's some new residents that have moved into Florida and places like Texas and the Gulf states, as well as the East Coast of the United States. So if you don't know what to do, here's how you can prepare for that. And of course, if you're a native to hurricane-prone areas, then of course you already know about this. When a hurricane is imminent, of course, follow official evacuation orders immediately. Secure outdoor items, board windows, and fill gas tanks early. Charge devices, move to a safe shelter if needed, and avoid flooded roads. And stay informed through NOAA, local officials, and even some weather apps as well, like WeatherWise or Radar Omega, or any sort of weather radar is really, to be honest, good. As long as you have a way to receive alerts and know how to evacuate, you got nothing to worry about, really. So, in summary here, pretty much the Atlantic is going to be below normal, while the Eastern Pacific is going to be above normal. Key drivers shaping this hurricane season is going to be El Nino, which creates opposite effects into basins where we have no wind shear in the Eastern Pacific, and we have a lot of wind shear occurring in the Atlantic basin. Irregardless of the sea surface temperatures, if there's some wind shear out there interacting with these storms, there ain't going to be no hurricane forming in that kind of environment. Unless it's some sort of supernatural weather modification stuff, then there's no chance of a hurricane happening. So nothing to worry about there. But remember, it only takes one storm to define the season. Prepare now regardless of forecasts. Stay informed, have a plan, and be ready, as one system can obviously define the season. Now, if you say this far in the video, I'd like to thank each and every one of y'all. And as a thank you, here is some folklore and traditional signs of approaching hurricanes. Seagulls, seagulls, sit on the sand. It is never good weather when you are on land. Bad weather offshore approaching. Cows holding tails upright is a signal of an approaching storm. Sparrows hiding under hedges or roofs before a hurricane. Alligators bellow longer and louder when a Gulf hurricane is near. These old sayings reflect centuries of coastal observation. While not scientific, obviously, they remind us to stay alert during hurricane seasons. So I hope each and every one of y'all enjoyed this hurricane outlook. If you did, please make sure you hit that like and share button so more folks are informed about this hurricane season. Also, leave me some feedback in the comment section down below, as any feedback helps provide you, the viewer, better and more informative content in the future. Also, if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button, as at Here's Weather we try to make weather forecasting fun and informative. So basically, it looks like the Atlantic season is going to be a little bit below average, but the Eastern Pacific is going to be well above average. So keep in mind, even though the Atlantic is going to be below average, it only takes one storm to redefine the season. And there could also be some caveats to this season, as really we've had above average seasons that have turned out to be below average, and below average seasons that have turned out to be above average. So irregardless, make sure you are definitely aware if you live in a hurricane prone area like the Gulf Coast, the East Coast, even the West Coast, I would say, and down there by Hawaii. Please make sure you are hyper aware of this hurricane season if you are in a hurricane prone area. So again, like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate all y'all for watching. Stay safe this hurricane season. I'll be keeping y'all posted, of course, here on YouTube and Rumble, as well as on X, Facebook, and on YouTube community posts. So again, like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate all of y'all for watching. And until next time, never stop forecasting.